Hello, Mixer. So, gonna make ourselves some pasta tonight. Gonna make ourselves some meatballs, and we'll see what we can do with sort of traditional Valentine's Day or Singles Awareness Day dessert. I'll do some chocolate lava cakes, which are not quite the original. Okay, I'm liking all that. That's all good stuff. It's just a little too thick for my fine sieve there. So we got 10 ounces of some beautiful red wheat flour. We're going to use as the base for our pasta tonight. You got eggs, and more eggs going on tonight again. I just keep going through eggs here lately. So for these, I'm going to save the yolks, or save the whites. We're going to use 4 yolks, 1 whole egg, and we'll be using 4 eggs for our cakes, leaving us 1 extra egg left over for some other time. We're going to use some of those egg whites. I already got flour all over me. Going to take the whites that we're not using with the pasta, rather those ones that we're using the yolks in the pasta for. Take the whites and we'll add those into our meatballs. Give them just a little bit more structure. We're going to be using beef. We're going to be using pork. Going to be using lamb. And I've still got a whole bunch of mushrooms in the refrigerator that are now getting to where I wouldn't want to feature them on a dish at this point. Still perfectly good, just not pretty. So we'll start by getting our dough going here. I needed something to put my whites in. Remembered eggs this week, or today, after Wednesday's debacle. This was not the right shirt to wear today. Don't really need my hands clean. I'm just getting a little bit of egg slime off of them. Got our 4 yolks. One whole egg. And sanitize our cutting board. rest of these guys away from later. I'm not doing very good math with that, am I? I'm gonna end up with 3 extra eggs left over and not 1. Oops. Need salt too. Need our pasta to taste like something. Don't want it to just be a beautiful, somewhat reddish white. Ooh, that's what I should do sometime. I've got this, I always keep it hidden here in the back because I hardly ever use it. Get rid of that entirely. Hawaiian black sea salt. I so very rarely use that because the black coloring, that's basically what it is, bleeds all over everything. But that wouldn't be bad if you're using it for like a pasta you want to be dark. So maybe you'll try and do that and purposely try and dye a pasta dark, make sort of a squid ink-esque pasta without using squid ink. Pasta nero. Okay, I think I'm going to add a little bit of oil to this. I haven't worked with this. Again, I'm mixing with things here too, so I'm working with completely different flour than I've been working with normally here too. So this isn't like I'm doing redemption pasta 2.0 here. This is a entirely new adventure here. This is entirely too wet still. I want to add some more fat to it, so add a tablespoon of our usual sunflower oil, or my usual sunflower oil. Yeah, it's still not going to be enough. Just going to add another egg. Yes, I just sanitized my board and then cracked an egg on it. And the reason this is completely different is because different flours have different absorption rates. They have different protein levels. They have different This is starting to get there. This is starting to be more like it. Once we get it all formed into a decent dough here, a little bit more folding. There's no corn in this, and it looks like a corn dough right now. It's sort of a beautiful flour. Using give me a second here. That's still a bit too firm though, I think. I think I'm gonna add a bit more oil to that. But that's now sort of feeling like broken dough before, where it was too dry, but I tried to work it anyways. I rolled the label up so but organic central red wheat flour. Which central probably doesn't mean much to people outside of Sonoma. They're central milling, so it's central milling red wheat flour. At least that's my assumption. Yeah, there we go. Still crumbly, but it's gonna form nice. I think it'll roll all right. Unlike, I don't know, what was it, 3 weeks ago? I'm still feeling horrible about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And so typically you want to knead your pasta for about 5 minutes here. Sort of count this as about a minute and a half, 2 minutes here so far. I haven't been very constructive in working the gluten at all in this. And it's not acting hugely glutinous either. Which is why there's a lot more fat in there to get things loose. Thank you. Happy Valentine's Day yourself. So I've already decided at this point that this is not my ideal flour for making pasta in the future, but we're going to continue with this anyways. and give it a full honest try here. It's not elastic enough for what I think a pasta dough should be. It's, you notice how it's crumbling rather than stretching. So I think we're going to take this guy and let him rest a little bit here before we... I'm going to go back and knead him a bit more before I throw him on the roller. But I'm going to give him a little bit of a rest here to let it figure itself out. Meat, meat, more meat. So much meat. Okay. We have ground pork. Ground lamb. And beef. I'll get rid of this packaging here real quick. I will be right back. Set these guys aside here for a moment and work on chopping up a couple of mushrooms here. And other than the stems, I'm just going to use up the last of all I have here. Got a couple of hedgehogs left. Which, hedgehogs wouldn't normally be meatloaf fodder. They're a little bit nicer than that, but starting to get dried out. collection going of mushroom stems here. We'll use these guys on Sunday. Sunday I'm doing a long stream. I'm gonna be making pork stock. I'm gonna be making pork short ribs. They're gonna take me 3-4 hours in the oven. Sorry, not gonna smoke them, not gonna grill them. I know that's what everyone always looks for. Still haven't quite figured out the whole grilling streaming situation. I should be able to stream from my OBS or my or from my cell phone from my OBS, but I haven't quite worked it out. I haven't sat down and do it. I just barely got done with. I switched today to using, let me see how I can show you one with a whole bunch of it on there. Oh yeah, that'll give you a whole bunch of it. Except it's supposed to be down there. There we go. Added the cutting board to all the frames, so that we got cutting board in the background now instead of black. So that was today's new addition. Still working on, it's a slow process to try and figure out how everything you want and everything. Sort of like what I realized with setting up a restaurant or something like that after getting involved in it and having set up my own commercial kitchen, is you really sort of need to get it. It's sort of like they say with the video game industry, you need to fail faster. It's the same thing with restaurants in that sense. You need to just go at it full on, full bore, and just fix the things as they come along, because it doesn't work otherwise. We're going to chop these up pretty fine, not ridiculously fine, but basically with the mushrooms in the meatballs is we're sort of half emulating fat here with the mushrooms. When you get around this size, when you get around this nice small little size here, it acts sort of like, when you crunch down on it, it's a little bit like crunching down on a piece of steak fat. Very, very similar in that pattern. They're both umami. And once they hang out together and cook, sort of indistinguishable in flavor sense. So this would be, if you got a nice food processor that's easy to set up and ready to use. This would be probably one of those good things, just throw in there and give it a quick pulse. Um, I'm not looking to dice this pretty or anything, obviously. Okay. These are also going to act great for absorbing all the blood and juices and all that stuff, because they would consume all that stuff normally in nature. The fats, they'll absorb a lot of the fat that pulls off and retain it as part of that mushroom or meatball, not mushroom. These guys, I'm going to be a little bit more careful about how I chop them. They're pretty dried out at this point. Squeaky. Squeaky dry. It's like cutting a sponge. You sometimes get that little squeak when you're cutting it. These are shiitakes, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned those. Those are oysters. These are shiitakes. And I did mention up in the top corner there is hedgehogs. So I started mentioning on Wednesday that all the Formula One cars are being revealed for the new season. There's sort of interested to see what happens here with Renault, because Renault posted pictures, but they posted pictures of the back 2/3 of the vehicle. They don't show too much of the front, and Renault had problems with their front end aero last year, and so they were looking to majorly redesign it. The question is that they were posing on that the Formula One announcers were posing online, and sort of got to wonder is, do they have a car at all? Because the racers haven't seen it, according to them. And Cyril, the head of Renault's team, was hyping it up as controversial, and maybe they're doing something to push the limits, but they'd be saying that if they didn't have a car too. So mushrooms in with our meat. Salt. Can add all sorts of spices at this point. I'm going to keep these guys sort of simple because I'm going to drown them in tomato sauce. So just a fair amount of pepper and salt. Some breadcrumbs. Those were panko breadcrumbs, but it's just a matter I had panko and it would be much more economical if I didn't use panko for this. Let's put it that way. But you can put all sorts of things in here. I mean, these would be great with olives. These would be great with other things than just mushrooms. Kingdom's masters of the umami world here. And just not really trying to work the meat so much as I'm trying to make sure we don't have any big clumps of mushroom by itself. In fact, if you're working with freshly ground meat where you're going to be able to retain that texture, you don't want to move it hardly at all. I've already gone well beyond that point. And so I'm going to section these guys off into meatballs. Make decent sized guys here. Don't want to work them too much. We're just really dividing it up and balling it slightly. And I have no idea how many I'm going to make here, but this is going to be sort of meals between now and Wednesday. Sunday I'm going to be doing ribs, but Sunday I'm going to be doing ribs for Sunday, basically. I haven't figured out what all I'm going to do with ribs either. What should I do with ribs? Anyone out there and make your land tonight? So we got 10 meatballs here. There's our meatballs. Gonna pull that pasta dough back out and give a second shot at giving that a little bit more kneading here before I start searing those guys. A little early for that too. I was considering putting on the oven, but that's what I should do here too. 'Cause I need water. Oh, wow. Okay, I need to put this through rollers instead of trying to do this by hand here. Nope. I don't know that I have a standard meatball. I'm always changing stuff up. They have to cook longer, obviously, if they're that big. Okay. So I think I'm going to wait on this guy until we're ready to roll him. Just set him over here for now. We'll keep going with our meatballs. I was sort of thinking of this guy when I was making them in size. Lots of oil in the pan. Pan at a high heat. Turn our fan on, close our bedroom door so we don't set off the smoke alarm. I need water. Getting warm, not quite hot enough yet though. cleaned the counter before I started the stream, but I just put my hand down there and I think it was just a piece of meat that got out of the bowl, but better safe than sorry with the pasta. Now we're getting up there. 500-degree smoke point. Starting to just see a few whiffs. Or wisps. Whiffs are typically something that smells a little bit bad. I guess we'll switch to tongs. We're gonna making meat cubes here. Thanks. I really should do a zoomed in shot to just show the first burner there. Probably show a lot better for people that are looking on like cell phones, that such. just going to pull them back off into my raw meat pan because we're going to finish these in the oven. But I'm going to actually use the same pan, but I don't want to use all the oil, and we're not going to fit, I can't even fit all of them in here just as they are right now, but once they were all rendered down and seared, there's probably enough room to pack them in there and get them in the oven together. It being winter here, I'm not making my own tomato sauce. I'm using I've got fire roasted tomato for with the meatballs, and I've got a tomato and basil for with the pasta. Our fail-safe for our pasta with a different type of wheat is box linguine. Have a backup plan this time. I don't think I made them that big last time. I think I made them about 2/3 that size the last time I made meatballs. Don't make meatballs a whole lot. I actually sort of make meatloaf more than I do meatballs. I almost did this meal on Sunday with the pork stock when I'm going to do a longer stream because, and then I realized that I had the ribs hidden in the freezer, and those are going to take me several hours, and so that would be working well with the stock, and so doing meatballs today instead of Sunday. Hey, Wizard. Hope you're having a good Valentine's Day. Hope you're enjoying your red velvet cake tonight. If you haven't already decimated that thing. Thank you for the sparks. Now that I've gone around and gotten color on all six sides of our meatballs. I'm going to go back through and give each one of them one more turn towards the side that I think got the least amount of color on it, and then we'll move on to the new set of meatballs. Switch the mics there so it's a little bit closer to the stove. Tempted to throw the other ones in there, but we're just going to cool the pan down even more. So we wait. What we got going on in there. I don't know off the top of my head. That would be more of a matter of which one renders at the lowest temp. It also depends on which cuts, because different cuts have different amounts of fat in them and different types of fat too. Like, I'm sort of doubting that leaf lard and sinew-like lard render at the same rates either, even just in the same animal. And like with the lamb and pork I got from the local rancher that I get a fair amount of my meat from, at least at this point. So I don't even know what the fat content on that grind was. Thanks for the sparks, Pan Swamp. Welcome to the channel. I don't know if I've seen you here in here before. We got the second batch of our meatballs going here. Our combination of beef, lamb, and pork with some a variety of mushrooms in there, some breadcrumbs. Oh, I didn't even throw any of the egg in there. Egg's still chilling here on the counter. So I guess we'll live without the egg to help bind them up anymore. Seems to be holding together fine as it is. Going to be doing some pasta up here after we get those guys in the oven and relaxing, and going to finish things up with the chocolate lava cake. Going to be maybe on the longer side of streams tonight, probably 7:30ish finish. Second batch is cooking a bit better here since I probably should have done 5 and 5 since I had 10 meatballs. Yep, we got 4 in the pan. We got another 6 over here. Get oil all over our counter here. The splatter from all of this. Enjoy PUBG. Have a good night. I will be here. Oh, you mean stuffing them with cheese? I've toyed with stuffing them with cheese too. That's something you probably sort of want, like I was talking before. Really, I'm talking whether you're here or not. Freshly ground meat that's nice and still in its grind form. They're still got its tubular form, basically, because it'll pack much better and much. Okay, pulled these guys off here. And we'll carefully get rid of some of this oil here. I'm going to pour it into the sink, but another pan or something along that line is probably a safer method if there's any worry of fire whatsoever. Got paper towel here at the handy so I can do this. Make sure we don't have any oil dripping down. No. There's a pretty serious fire at my at the Culinary Institute of America when I was there. I mean, it shut down one of the kitchens, I think, for a semester. But one of the students had gone to lunch and left the pan flame off, just chilling on the stove, and it had a dribble of oil down the side. That little dribble of oil down the side caught a pilot light, and there was the chefs and them caught it quick. Like, they caught it before it was an actual fire, but like when it was just like the pot going, when it wasn't the kitchen going. But the chefs couldn't get into the room. They ended up having to break the doors down in order to get into the room because they'd all left for lunch. Anyways, poured off some of our oil there. We'll stack these guys back in here. I think we can fit them that way. We got them in here with room to spare. Actually, let's try. Okay. Now that I'm done fussing, I'll take our roasted tomato sauce. And pour that all over these lovely guys. And toss these guys. Give it a little shake, get that sauce a little bit more distributed. We're going to throw this all in the oven for right now. Turn our attention back to the pasta. Got the roller out already, just didn't set it up. There we go. Give this one more roll up, make it a little bit thinner here. A little bit easier to go through the machine. We're obviously going to have to double this over a couple of times in order to get it happy rolling. I don't know, after the sweet started to hydrate, it's not working too bad here. It's certainly not the ideal. But let's see, if it's one of those cases where the flavor is outstanding, maybe it's worth the extra effort. Okay. It's not exactly happy, but it's going. It's a going. Already looking like a mess. It'll come together here in a second if you give me a chance to make it look okay. Just give me a chance. too. So while it looks like a crumbly mess right now, it is actually forming together, unlike that other time that I keep mentioning. Now font size to down one size. The idea being here that we can go back to the bigger size once we flatten these once more through here. As you can see, it's actually getting darker here as more of the, it actually gets better mixed. Feel like I'm somehow trying to sell you guys snake oil, but it's the truth. It's the truth. This will be a beautiful set of pasta. Yeah, a little bit. Oh, why don't you want to catch? Go back to our original thick size. It's going so slow. Okay, we're skipping that. We're going to go a little bit thinner by hand. Very interesting texture to this stuff too. It's very, looks like a, almost like granulated sugar instead of flour. That was something resembling a sheet. just not holding together. Just doesn't have the glue. It's rolling all right. Just not working for me tonight. Okay. I've given this a good 30 minutes of rolling here. Got our meatballs looking lovely down there. I'm thinking this might be a lost cause for this evening, and I will save this and work this later. So we'll have to go with the backup boxed pasta. I lose yet again. But don't fail, you don't learn. Trying out different wheats, different pasta, different ways of making pasta. It's not all going to work. I'm putting in an airtight container so that it actually lasts and I can actually do something with it. That makes some things a little bit easier this evening. We'll go with my low water method of cooking pasta. Twice now, pasta. So we'll switch to making cake. Get a little this pasta flour and nastiness out of the way. Okay, and for this guy we're going to need a bowl. We need a couple of different bowls, I think. One for that, for mixing everything together. We need one for eggs, I think. Let me look at the recipe. New recipe to me, trying new things as always. The original creator of the Molten Chocolate Cake would consider this recipe an abomination. The reason he would consider it an abomination is he didn't. This is going to be a high heat cook, and then basically you're just not cooking the cake completely, but you're not worried about it because there's no real egg component to. There is eggs in this, so you got to worry about the eggs, but I'm not worried about the eggs. But the original one was he had made a frozen like cake for the center that too much work. But at the same time, this is most certainly not the Chili's or Applebee's or I forget who all in the fast food industry that has these things where they literally just take them out of the microwave and nuke them in the microwave. Take them out of the freezer straight in the microwave. So we got flour to sift. Not a lot though, just a quarter cup. And half cup confectioner's sugar. My kind of recipe. Twice as much sugar as flour. I'm going to call that close enough. Hi, they're close enough. With semi-dry hands, we're going to sift our flour and powdered sugar. I thought I had 4 of these guys. I thought I had 4 clean guys of these. I must have lost one somewhere along the line. Butter and cocoa line our ramekins here. Instead of flour like I did with the angel food, which I'm actually not going to recommend if you actually try and follow the recipe that I did on Wednesday for the angel food. It's a good standard angel food cake recipe, but flouring the pan was a mistake. That gave me that splotchy exterior to the cake, and it made me worried when I was doing the stream that it didn't properly cook all the way through and mix entirely, but there was no flour bubbles whatsoever, no unevenness to it at all once you cracked into it. It was just the exterior of it. I think that was entirely because of how I did the pans. Then again, like I said, I didn't use a proper whole pan. I used a sort of like bunt pan. Just getting the bottom real good and then working our ways around the sides. Put butter back in the fridge. Grab our cocoa. There's actually no cocoa in this recipe. There's just cocoa as far as lining the outsides of these guys. There we go. This last one I'll do over the sink. There we go. We'll put our cocoa away, we'll put our powdered sugar away. need a microwave safe bowl for this next part. Use my coffee scale here for a moment. And we're looking for how much chocolate? 6 ounces. I was going to more in depth when I got to it there, but I don't boil when I'm using dried pasta, not fresh pasta. If I was going through with my own pasta here, I would have used that. Used a 5-gallon pot of water. But when I'm doing dried pasta nowadays, I just use this guy, cold pasta. 1 pound of pasta to 1.2 pounds of water. I know you don't weigh water by the pound, but volume-wise, 1 pound to 1.2 of water, and bring it up to a boil. Cook it like rice. Bring it up to a boil. Let it sit for 10 minutes, and then once it's done, you have a little bit of liquid in the bottom, but it's good thickening liquid that'll great for thickening up your sauce. And the top will be just under al dente, but the bottom will be perfectly cooked through. And you used an exact amount of water, so it's not like it's going to overcook. It's not going to get too wet. And so then you can toss it with your pasta. The liquid in the bottom thickens up your sauce. The top finishes its last little bit of cooking. And you're all set to go without dealing with another 5 gallons of water to get rid of. And you haven't spent the money to heat it up either. So we're going to slowly melt this butter and chocolate together. We've got a stick of butter with 6 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate. I'm using Guittard Super Cookie Chips. And we'll just do that in the microwave. I'm going to start with 15 seconds and then do 10-second increments until it's all nicely melted. Good for the environment, but I do it less for the environment and more for the convenience of not having a dishwasher that I can just throw that giant pot into and forget about. It's going to sit here and get in my way until I deal with it. First 15 seconds didn't change it much, but you don't want to overcook. I mean, you can burn chocolate really quickly in a microwave. So the bowl itself is warm to the touch. chocolate's starting on the edges to melt if we move it around. And this is about 25 seconds in, or a 15-second pulse, a toss, and then back in for 10 more. And we're going to send it in for another 10 minutes. Yeah, 10 minutes. 10 seconds. And at the same time, I was just reading for the other alternative for doing the 5 gallons is pasta water is great for gardening, for feeding your plants. Now 35 seconds in, and butter's pretty much breaking down. This probably only needs another 10 to 20 seconds here until we get this fully good. Do you want to make sure you don't leave a ton on the sides, because that thin stuff on the coating on the outside in the microwave is what's going to burn if it does burn. Enjoy your popcorn. Hope you have a great evening. Thanks for stopping by. And stir this for a little bit. We're looking pretty glossy there, which means we got a decent amount of carryover heat here. Alright, gonna give that one more shot in the microwave. We'll be there. We got our chocolate and our butter. We got our flour and sugar. We need one more bowl for our eggs so that we can give them a quick whisk before we mix them in with everything else here. Need 2 large eggs and 2 large egg yolks. That's 1 egg yolk and 1 egg. So there's our eggs, and our leftover egg whites. So we're just going to whisk these until we get our whites basically broken down. Like you would if you're doing eggs, if you're doing scrambled eggs or an omelet or something along that line. There we go. Eggs in with the flour and sugar. Switch over to a spatula here. There we go. Get rid of our eggs. There's little chunks in there. I'm not too worried. I mean, you worried about a couple of chunks of chocolate in your cake? Chocolate. Oops, we need salt in here. And let's make sure that I'm not missing anything else in this recipe. Like baking powder or something along that line. Let's see here. We have chocolate in there, we have butter in there, we have AP flour, we have confectioners in there, we have salt, we have eggs, we have egg yolks. We are set. So we're just going to give this just enough of a mix to combine. Then we're going to spread this amongst my 3 ramekins here. Originally planned to be 4, but... And if you weren't here earlier, these are coated with, got a line of butter in there with cocoa powder to allow these guys to pull away. Obviously, we're a bit large on our first one, a little small on our last. Take a good spoonful of this guy out, a couple of them. Okay. Tastes like chocolate. So let's pull our meatballs out. We'll let those rest here on the stove. They're looking gorgeous. We're going to finish these off with a little cheese here in the end here, but we need to kick this oven up to 425 degrees here to finish our pies. Take a finger and wipe that off. Give ourselves a hand wash. It's been a little bit since we've done that. Been handling raw eggs and all that, and I'm not too worried about the eggs myself, but it's good practice. Been getting a little lazy with my hand washing here the last couple of weeks, I guess. I'm getting a little lazy with the dishes here too. I keep leaving myself piles to deal with at the end of the stream. So we got a pound of pasta here. We're going to add 1.2 pounds of water. That was 1 pound of water. Now we go back for the slightly less than a quarter. Oops. Got ourselves some salt going here. And medium flame. Take off our pasta machines while we're at it here. So we got that, got that. Gonna have to change how I'm doing my pasta here now. So we'll have to do our sauce here in a separate pan. I'm going to take both of our bottles of pre-made pasta sauce here, and throw in a little water, give them a good shake up. Not so much because I need to rinse out the bottles here to recycle them, but rather so we get all of that tomato flavor out of these guys. And we're going to heat that up, so we're going to reduce it a little bit. I think we can handle reducing that little bit of liquid out of there. So we'll turn that guy on. Let's get ourselves a sheet pan and some parchment. Gonna have to remember to buy some parchment again here soon. Starting to run low. The pre-cut portioned parchment sheets are lifesaver as far as time and work and effort. And I just realized the light in front of me isn't even on. Hey, does that help? You see me any better now? We're going to throw these back in the oven to finish them, but we might as well make them pretty now. So that's a little mozzarella, a little provolone. We got a little a little ground parm, actual Italian stuff, not the fake wannabe cellulose. That does have its place in this world too. I do use my fair share of green bottle Parmesan. I'm pulling up a video here. Yeah, we'll do this. So this is how I'm doing my pasta tonight. Oops. Helps if you unmute the tab. So this is what I'm doing with my pasta. If it wants to play.
Most traditional recipes for making pasta tell you to start out with lots and lots of water and heat it up to the boil before you add the pasta. It turns out that you don't need to do that. You can save a lot of time, a lot of water, a lot of energy by starting out with cold water and a frying pan. Put the pasta in the frying pan, pour a quart and a half or so of water on top of the pasta, turn on the heat, and because the water is cold, the pasta won't stick to itself at the very beginning. When it's done, you have pasta that's perfectly cooked, and you have a thickened liquid that you can use to make all kinds of sauces.
So that's what I'm doing. That's how I cook my pasta most of the time these days. We're starting to get there with this liquid. Need to come to a boil though. And when I say a boil, I mean I do like a rolling boil to the point where we're going to get bubbles touching the glass here before I turn it off. Wow, I can smell that Parmesan. What? For some reason, my oven is not on. I thought I had just reset that to 425. Didn't I just do that? So we're chilling out waiting for this to warm up while we cook our pasta. We're starting to bubble there, just barely. I'm going to sit here and make sure and shake it up. It looks good for the camera at least. But I've found that it doesn't really need it. It's sort of like, you know, the Joker in the kitchen shaking the pan. It isn't necessary to shake that pan. It won't stick together. Occasionally we'll get here at the end and then they'll be just sort of stuck, you know, all in locked in position. But they're not like, they'll break apart, no problem. No problem. throw our cakes in the oven here, because it is saying it's 425, so we're going to trust it through that. And take a look here at time. I think it's 15 minutes. Okay, 12 to 14 minutes. So we'll set that for 12. It's actually going to line up pretty well with our pasta here. Our pasta is nicely boiling, but like I said, I'm going to wait until that's boiling at the top. We got the perfect amount of water we need with that pasta. We really can't overcook it, because we don't have enough water for it to absorb to overcook. I mean, yeah, you could leave it in there until it burns, but it's actually a little bit more foolproof than doing it in a giant pot of water, because you have to sit there and guess at what point you take it out with the hot water. This, it's cooked. You got all the water you're going to put in there. I think we're good there. I'll cut the power on that. See the bubbles right up to the top there. Actually, I don't know if you can or not. You can see some of the bubbles there. We got our sauce up to temp now. I'll let that continue to simmer and maybe reduce slightly. I'd imagine we've cooked off most of that water that we added already. Let's see what's happened in the world of news since no one's chatting with me. Oh, come on. I hate when websites take forever and load up absolutely the way that you don't expect them to. So you have to wait longer for them to figure out what they're doing. There we go. That man is just. Why people give that man credence? And no, I'm not talking about Trump. There be cakes in there. Minute and a half left. Minute 45. Always love sitting here for the, it's in the oven stream. You're going to be slightly over 10 minutes with this timer and that, but I'm just going to leave it till the timer's done. Get our towel ready here to take a look at our lava cakes. Cut the heat off on the sauce back here. Cheese has obviously released a fair amount of its oil at this point. I want to give those a full 14. So we'll give those another 2 minutes here. And look at that perfectly cooked pasta. See, like I said, it's sort of locked in place, but once you stir it, put a lid back over that guy. Let that just relax for a moment. Let's get out our pan rest so we can put those lava cakes for you guys to see in all their glory with their set sides and semi-set center, because we're going to be turning these over. The bottom's going to be set, the sides are going to be set, the center's going to be just under. Take our meatballs and throw these guys in the oven. Get the top all nice and melty, even more so than it is. Oven's at 425, but I just turned it off. So it's just gonna warm all that lovely stuff up. Take a picture of these guys straight out of the oven. And another one maybe with some powdered sugar on top. use that guy for chocolate. Used the dinner bowl I was planning on using for, well, the bowl I was planning on using for dinner for melting the chocolate, so got a cleaning project here to do for dinner. I was tempted to do more whipped cream, but I didn't have it in me to whisk whipped cream for a third time in three streams. Sorry. We're waiting until these are essentially touchable. Which they should be just about ready to go right now. Do have a little bit of a jiggle to them, especially like in the center on that guy. So there we go. We got meatballs. We got pasta. And we got cake. Still a bit too warm. Get ourselves a photo of these meatballs. As usual, all my photos will be up on Instagram after the stream. Give me 5 minutes to wolf down some of the food beforehand. And turning them because we got a fan. I got a fan blowing over here. If you're not used to watching me, I got a fan blowing across my countertop. get started here. Make sure our sides are nice and loose. Nothing caught across the. Looks like it'll release pretty well. Wow, that's still a little warm. I really didn't want to bounce that plate like that. It's turned right over on there. Hasn't fallen. Has lost its guts though. One down. Ooh. Going for the pretty photo here. Not with that plate. Old plates, some of them are stained. Really don't want to do that to these plates. My grandma's old plates. So that guy didn't turn out well. Now that's one you could make perfect with whipped cream. Put a little whipped cream on top, no one know any better. But we want pretty. We want nice, clean, full removal. There we go. Nice, pretty clean top there. Pan's cool enough I can take that off the counter now. We of course got to do the powdered sugar over top. You got to get the video of breaking into this guy. Okay, so we got that amazingness there. And then we're going to make ourselves a bowl of pasta here with a couple of meatballs. A little bit of good stuff on there, mostly around the sides. I think I'll go for this guy. Look at that cheese pool. Could do a third one of this thing be all meat then. Do you think I'm gonna move that guy back there though? Oh hey wait, welcome back E-Wizard. Yes, quite happy with this lava cake. That one turned out quite nicely. Got one more in here. This guy didn't quite turn out for me, but like I was saying before, this is a restaurant. Little whipped cream, powdered sugar, out the door. We got our meatballs and pasta. Give that a quick shot for the Instagrams. It's looking like a little bit of a cheese mess over here with all the cheese pull on those though. Yep, out the door. Sell the ticket. No ticky, no foodie. Very happy with how the meatballs turned out tonight. Very happy with how the lava cakes turned out as well. Thank you for No, I only used a little bit of panko. There's a combination of beef, pork, and lamb in there, and then I did a whole bunch of mushrooms because I had a whole bunch kicking around in the refrigerator going. So I had some shiitakes, some hedgehogs, and some oyster mushrooms that I chopped up really finely in there and added in panko, and then just formed it together. Didn't use egg either. I was planning on using the leftover egg whites in with that to help bind them a bit better, but I forgot to do it, and they turned out fine just as is. So, very happy with tonight's meal, and definitely know not to use that flour for pasta again. Thanks for stopping by again, eWizard. Make sure and check him out on Sunday morning before I'm back here doing. I'm going to be doing pork stock and pork ribs in the oven on Sunday. Going to start earlier, probably start around noonish my time, so maybe right after eWizard's done. And hope to see you then. Hope you have a great evening, and thanks for joining me as I cook this evening. Good night.